there's a provision in the Constitution where if you save the president's life, he has to buy you a cheeseburger. This is We Have Concerns. Hi, Jeff Cannata.
Hi, Anthony Carboni.
Hello, concerned citizens.
Anthony, last week in our little pre-show, that the patrons get a certain level. Patrons get that bonus audio. It's like a bonus show. Pretty cool. But last week
within the walled garden,
you mentioned to me that you were getting into the cooking a little bit.
Yep, I'm getting back into cooking. I've been cooking more.
Nice.
I'm slowing down on it because I no longer have roommates or a significant other where if I cook, somebody else cleans, and so that's been an issue. A real big issue. But I'm still cooking.
Well, it got me thinking about cooking, and I was kind of thinking about other animals that cook. Like, are there any other animals that prepare food?
Oh, that's fascinating to think about.
Right?
Well, now, this automatically opens up a ton of questions in my mind as far as what are we defining as cooking? What is preparation of food? You know what I mean? Because if you're an animal that cracks open a coconut, are you preparing food versus are you an animal that orders a meal kit?
I think cracking open a coconut probably wouldn't be.
Are you a badger that perhaps wears a little waistcoat and invites your friends over for tea and makes little finger sandwiches? Do you know what I mean?
Sandwiches. Yeah. Yeah. Are you perhaps a...
is this a Wind in the Willows situation?
Right. Are you perhaps a rodent that rides around in a chef's little hat and instructs him how to prepare food?
Yeah. But while we're talking about rodents, perhaps you're a rodent that owns a classic motorcycle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or a skateboard.
Or a rodent that maybe can't find his way home and is somewhere out there.
Hard to say. And is that, I mean, even that rodent, I don't remember preparing his own food very much. I think he relied on the kindness of others.
Indeed.
So when we're talking about the animal kingdom and preparing food, what are we talking about?
Well, like I said, this would not be cracking open a coconut, opening nuts and shells or anything like that would not fall into the purview of preparing food. That's literally the requirement to eat a coconut is you get inside the coconut. So just an animal figuring out how to get inside a coconut would not fall under the purview of this kind of
I think we're
inquiry.
minimizing the accomplishments of these animals, but I think that's fair and understandable based on what we're talking about today.
No, thank you. And to be totally clear, there are zero animals other than human beings that cook, that, start a fire and roast food on it or boil water, do anything like that. There's no cooking in nature. I think we all understand that, but just to be clear, there's no cooking. But
there's no cooking in nature. There's no crying in baseball. These are things that we all know.
These are the laws, the 5 laws of thermodynamics, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a number of animals that do things to their food before they eat them, which I think would be what we're talking about here.
Okay.
There are ants that place food into the bellies of their larvae for them to spit enzymes into so that they're more easily digestible.
Okay.
So that's one kind of thing. There are birds called shrikes that are also called butcher birds.
Yeah, shrikes
They impale poisonous grasshoppers on thorns and leave them there for up to 2 days so that their poison degrades before they eat them.
Yeah, if you read a lot of fantasy fiction, shrikes are used as a metaphor quite a bit.
Yeah. But that's pretty thinking ahead, right? It's like, if I eat this now, I'm either going to die or going to have a real upset tummy. It's not good for the tum-tums.
The reason I like thinking about something like that is before this behavior is learned in shrikes, before shrikes see other shrikes doing this, it's like, how did they come up with this? And you get into generational versus cellular memory and very kind of interesting ideas like that, where it's like, if a shrike is born and is not around other shrikes, does it still know to do this? And how does it know to do this? That's the kind of thing I like thinking about. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. A couple other examples. Capuchin monkeys. They leave out palm nuts to dry in the sun so that they can crack into them easily. So they'll set them out, leave them, let them dry, and then come back and crack into them.
I love that.
Which isn't exactly, cooking, but it's interesting behavior, certainly.
Listen, buddy, you got to sun dry a tomato before it's fancy. That's preparing food.
That's right.
I think these monkeys are preparing stuff.
And you know how I love to talk about macaques.
Yes, I do.
When macaques will take a potato from you, even when they're given to them by scientists, they'll season them in salt water, which means that macaque makes things salty. Just putting that out there. Macaques make things salty. But that's not what I'm here to talk about, Anthony. That's not what I'm here to talk about because...
No, it's not. And it's not what you can tell it's not what I am here to encourage by my immediate silence.
Or acknowledge in any way.
Nope.
This all led me to a story that was posted in our subreddit. Not subreddit. No, it was the Discord. The Discord that you get access to. Yeah.
It
was
the
Discord,
better people who pay for access to us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Our favorite folks.
We have patreon.com/we have concerns.
Yeah. This was posted by one of our favorite contributors, Synergy himself, Z Mansfield. Synergy posted this story about a new paper that was just published about a spider that scientists think, is exhibiting behavior that could be interpreted as preparing its food.
Now, it's either preparing its food or it's selling knives. Either way, or it's selling knives to pay for school. Because either way, it does have an intricate set of cooking knives. And they're very impressive. If you go by the spider's web, it will show you. I was told by my friend the Badger, who wears a waistcoat, that if you go by the spider's web, it will show you how it can cut through a can and then a tomato without having to resharpen the knife.
You don't have to sharpen it again. And you know how spiders hate resharpening their knives.
And you'd think they'd be able to sharpen a whole set very efficiently, what with the 8 legs. They don't have to, but they don't like it. They're just like us. That doesn't mean, just because you can do busy work more efficiently doesn't mean you want to.
Right. It does explain why they need an entire set of knives, though, with the 8 legs. Anyway, so this is a really a fascinating story to me, which is why I'm bringing it up. Not just because of how I was musing on animals cooking, but because this behavior was just observed by chance. So in late December 2020,
that means the spider is not a very good salesman.
It's true. It's very true. They just happen to be clicking around and they landed on the spider QVC.
No,
that's what.
If you're going to make those sales, you got to get out there. People got to know you as being somebody who sells things.
You got to knock on doors and knock on doors and knock on doors 8 times, right? You got 8 legs. Anyway, in late December 2020, John Gould, who is a behavioral biologist at the University of Newcastle in Australia.
I'm sorry. I just want to say that if you knocked on a door with shave and a haircut, 2 bits, that would be 7 legs and you would still have 1 left to hold your briefcase of knives. Shave and a haircut, 2 bits.
You counted it out to make that.
I counted it out because I wanted to know. And I want everybody to know that it could still hold its briefcase of knives.
There are animators who listen to this show. I want an animated spider who's literally using each appendage to make 1 note in shaving a haircut. Knock, 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 knock. That is good. That is good stuff. You could mint that as an NFT. That's how good that is.
Stop it. This is a safe place.
Okay.
We're talking about Australia. We're talking about Australia, the spider capital of the world.
Yes, it's trying to kill you. And this guy, John Gould, is out there in it. He was actually surveying the Kooragang Island in southeastern Australia, surveying the area for a threatened frog species. So he's not there for any reason that has anything to do with spiders, but because it's Australia, there are going to be spiders.
Yeah. But there are also otters in cabbie hats that will try to rough up the spiders. And so it was trying to rough up these frogs and these spiders.
Yeah.
And these scientists were like, we can't let these otters rough up these frogs anymore. There's got to be justice in the city.
Yeah, that's scientific work in Australia a little different than anywhere else. A little different.
They do things a little differently. What can I say?
Yeah. Anyway, so he's hanging out, observing frogs, and he turns his head, and lo and behold, he sees a long-jawed orb weaver spider suspended in a web. You know, as one does.
As one does.
You know, how many times have you yourself been sitting there, you turn your head, you're like, oh, look, a long-jawed orb weaver spider.
Too many to count.
Too many to count.
I'll tell you that.
You counted one on each spider leg, you'd get past 8. Anyway, so he's hanging out. He's checking out this guy. The spider's suspended over some vegetation. And then this spider goes leaping off. He describes it as bungeeing down. The leaping off, suspending a web, any size, catching bad guys. No, I'm sorry. I messed up the quote of the song.
No, go on.
He just like flies, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Look out.
Yeah.
Here comes the Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, so he the spider goes down to a pond, and the long-jawed orb weaver spider is called long-jawed because it has big honking mandibles that stick out of its face. These huge claw-like jaws.
Predator mandibles.
Yes, exactly. Big, long ones. They look like bananas.
Yeah.
Sticking out of its face.
Hell yeah.
Like it's got two cigars in either cheek.
I love it.
Basically. Yeah.
That's a cool spider.
Totally cool. You can understand why this thing would have caught his attention. You know, he's hanging out looking at frogs all day. He wants to look at something cool for once.
Finally.
Yeah.
Only the cool older scientists get to look at the long-jawed orb weaver spiders. They're like, no, you go look at frogs, Gould.
Yeah. Gould is like, oh, frog duty. Nah. Anyway. So he sees this thing go down to the pond, use its face to pluck a droplet of water, hold it there, retract back up its web, and bring the water over to its prey, an insect that it had already captured in its web, a desiccated insect that, didn't have any moisture in it anymore because it had been there for a while.
He was rehydrating his food?
Yes, rehydrating its food.
He turned whatever this thing was into instant ramen?
Yes, exactly. Yes, just add water.
Yo, that's kind of amazing. That's like, so that they catch these things in their webs, right? And then they go off and they do whatever it is spiders do throughout the day. I would imagine they put on 4 different pairs of spats and go down to the market.
Yeah.
And then when they come back at the end of the day, they've caught this thing, but maybe it's like you said, maybe it's like dried out. It died and it dried out and it's gross now.
Yeah.
Or even if they have multiple webs, I don't know how orb spiders work. Maybe they have multiple sites where they're looking for food. And so by the time they get to one, it's dried out. Nobody wants dried out food. Although I did used to eat the dried out ramen noodles like they were a bar when I was a kid.
Did you really? Just
yeah,
like
I would
crunch them like a cookie?
I would put the powder on top.
Oh, God.
And then eat it like it was a bar.
That's foul, man.
Yeah, it was pretty.
It's like just salting some.
It's just salting starch.
Noodles. Yeah.
Like your favorite monkeys do.
That's right. Oh, it's like you're basically a macaque. Anyway, the craziest thing about this, Anthony, is that no one has ever seen a spider do this before.
Huh.
No one. So Spiders are known to drink water. They drink water regularly. They
Sure.
drink water, little dewdrops of water off of petals. They drink from
Oh my God,
ponds
that's
and
adorable.
standing water. They that's adorable.
There's
Yes.
just so much, man. Listen, the running theme today is just animals being adorable, and that just fits.
It just slurps it, right off a freshly dune.
I imagine it using the little leaf like a teacup.
Yeah, like Willy Wonka does in that one scene.
Oh my God, animals are
Yeah.
adorable as shit.
So we've seen that. We've observed spiders do this, but never has anyone observed a spider taking the water from its source and bringing it back to its home.
I want to say that it's amazing. These spiders are small enough that they can use the surface tension of water to their advantage and carry a droplet of water.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's pretty wild. Wild in and of itself.
That's
like
wild
it
in
knows
and
that it can do that.
Yeah. And then it's
Yeah.
like, these are better when you put water on it. And it's like, man, okay, now we got to figure out whether that's something every long-jawed orb weaver knows. We've got to figure out if that's something that they do regularly, or if it's
Or is it just this guy?
Is it just this guy who figured it out? Is he
Yeah,
the
it's just one
linguini?
dude.
Is he the linguini the rat of the long-jawed
Yeah.
orb weavers?
Yeah. He's making spider tattooey over here.
Like,
You know?
what if it's just one? Like, there was a guy on Reddit a couple days ago who posted something where he has a pet tortoise or a pet turtle that like will follow him around the house and wants affection from him, which is not something that turtles normally like. It's not a behavior that we see in turtles. And they've figured out that it's not that the turtle does not associate this guy with food, because the guy's like, this turtle is actually my wife's turtle. She feeds it. She does everything. And the turtle just follows me around. The turtle just likes me. And number one, I was like, ain't that always the way? One person does the work and the other person's the favorite.
It's so true.
But then number two, this is something where it's like, okay, well, now we have to go figure out if all turtles like affection and search
Yeah.
out affection and bond.
Or is this one particular needy turtle?
Right.
You know,
like
This
that.
codependent turtle.
Yeah. Like the dog that we talked about that pushes the buttons to talk. Like, is
Genius dog or every dog capable?
this a thing that all of these spideys do?
Do you think that turtle is like, I would just like a hug?
Yes. And I think it probably is wearing a little bow tie, so it looks its best.
Just come back over here and give me a hug.
I'm wearing my Sunday finest. It's got the bow tie, and then it's got just the cuffs.
Oh yeah, right. And the cufflinks.
Yeah, like a cartoon character.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's
That is an odd affectation that they would draw just the cuffs of a shirt.
I
don't
love
really
it.
get that.
I love when they do that on an animal, because why not? The animal's already talking. We're already there. So do they know any of this stuff? Has Gould done any further observation? Is this a special Spidey?
Well, they don't know the answer to that question. We do know that there are other insects that move water around. We've witnessed bees and wasps move water into and out of their hives to regulate the temperature in the hive, which is pretty sophisticated.
Wow. They make
and-
swamp coolers. They make little swamp coolers in their houses.
Yeah. I mean, yes. And we've also seen ants that bail out water from flooded nests.
Mhm.
So they'll literally like create, a fireman's
And we've seen
Fireman's
grasshoppers and straw hats that knock on those ants' doors when wintertime comes.
That's right. That's right. But they should have known better. They should have prepared themselves.
They should have prepared themselves.
So it's not unusual for insects to move droplets of water. Never seen a spider do it ever. So this is literally like he saw this back in 2020, December 2020, just published the observations in the journal Ethology in January.
Fuck else was this guy doing? Come on.
I don't know. Like how hard is it to write up? I saw a spider get some water, bro.
Yeah.
In a I
Like,
don't know. It
I
takes
got to
a-
alert everyone.
It takes
And
like
then
a year and a half.
A year and a half later, it's like, because he's got to write it in fucking research speak. He's got to
I
convert
guess.
it to academic speak so he can keep his position.
Yeah.
You know?
So here's the
Within this
analysis
limited
here.
data set, we have observed, there's no abstract. There's no conclusion.
Yeah.
There's no methodology. You saw a Spidey carry a water. Come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, though. It is.
I don't blame him. I blame the
system.
system. I blame the
Right.
system.
Well, it's a data set of one, so we don't know how much we can really gain from this, or glean from it. But we do know that spiders eat bug slurry, which is basically they inject their own bits of enzyme and stomach bile into insect parts.
Yeah,
and
like
eat it.
when Jeff Goldblum makes Gina Davis record him eating in The Fly.
Exactly. Yes. So one theory here is that takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy to like regurgitate your own stomach enzymes and bile
Plus,
and moisten this dried out shit. And he's just like, you know what? Shortcut. I'll go down to the pond, get me a little sweet water, do it
because it's
easy way.
also super unpleasant, Jeff. You know those mornings where you're like, I know if I throw up, I'll feel better, but I would rather have a hangover all day
right.
than
'Cause I don't
throw
wanna
up
go through
once.
that. Yeah.
I know if I throw up, I'll feel better. But guess what? I hate throwing up so much that I will lay on the couch and be miserable all day.
Yeah.
And I think I get where the spider is coming from.
Yeah. It takes energy. It takes calories. It takes doing it.
Yeah, your stomach, like the involuntary clenching of your stomach muscles to a level that, like, I'm sorry, I know this is a trigger for some people, like even talking about it. But
Yeah.
I get where all I'm saying is I get where this spider is coming from. You don't want to get, he doesn't want to get any on his spats.
Yeah. So it could be like he's got jerky, and he wants something a little more palatable.
Sure.
So one theory is, this guy is basically doing what we've been talking about, making a better meal using his environment, which is pretty sophisticated behavior, never before seen in a spider.
Love it.
Another theory is the exact opposite, which is he's literally using his environment to make food less appealing to his rivals.
Huh?
So it's literally like, I'm going to put water all up on this thing so no one comes and eats it.
I'm going to make it gross.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to slop up this steak. I'm going to make sloppy steaks.
No sloppy steaks. You guys can't make
Sloppy
sloppy
steaks.
steaks in here.
Well, I want to make some sloppy steaks. I'm going to slop up these steaks, baby. So we don't know if he like, yum, this is delicious, or man, I don't want anybody else to have this, so I'm going to make it
I'm going to ruin it
disgusting.
so nobody else wants it.
Exactly.
That's petty as shit.
Another theory is that he's literally washing it to
No.
like get rid of some insect toxin that we aren't aware of.
I'm going to say my gut tells me that one's the least likely.
Yeah, it does seem least likely.
I'm willing to believe that this spider is petty and vindictive before I'm willing to believe that this spider is washing its food.
Yeah, it's more likely that it just doesn't want anybody. He's like, I licked it.
Yeah.
I licked it. Now you can't eat it.
You can't eat it. I licked it. I made it terrible to everyone. So stop bullying me. You don't want my pudding cup because I stuck my tongue in it.
Exactly.
So you can't have it.
You can't have it. That's way more likely than he's just like, no, I want to be cleanliness is close to godliness.
Yeah,
I want
no,
this to
I'm
be-
willing to believe the worst in spiders before I believe the best in spiders. I have a Successories poster on my wall that says that.
believe the worst in spiders.
I believe the worst in
Have a great
spiders
day.
before you believe the best in spiders.
The final theory here is there is some evidence that spider webs, we've actually seen, spiders drink water that collects on spider webs. And there's some evidence that water droplets on spider webs, like the reason that spider webs can retain water droplets on them is that they can assist in prey capture. So that the water itself like weighs down a still living insect that gets caught in the web, and it makes it easier for the spider to kill its prey. So there's another theory that perhaps this spider is like, well, that works super well with my web. I'm going to bring a little water, throw it. I'm going to waterboard this guy. I'm going to waterboard my prey here.
Woo.
Make sure it can't move, you know?
Yeah. Wow. There are so many things this spider could be doing.
Yes. Well, I think this is fascinating because literally no one has ever seen this behavior before.
Yeah.
So you know, they're trying to determine that one of the reasons that they say no one's ever seen this before is because it happens pretty fast. It's kind of hard to observe. So the next step is they're taking Gould off of frog duty, and he's like 100% on spider duty because this is pretty interesting stuff. So they're going to try to see if they can.
He got upgraded.
Yeah.
He got
Witness other
upgraded.
spiders doing this. You know?
He doesn't have to kick the dirt and go, oh gosh, I want to watch spiders with the rest of the guys.
Yeah. You're on spider duty, Gould. Nice work, buddy.
Oh, gee, thanks. Yeah. I promise you. I won't. You won't regret this. I'm gonna do the best I've ever done. Of like, yeah. Just get out of here, Gould. Get to work. and then as he leaves, the Sarge of Science sits down, opens up his drawer where he keeps his flask and his gun, his science gun, pours himself a little drink and is like, that kid's all right. But he doesn't want to show him. He doesn't want to show him because science is about tough
love. It'll make him weak. Yeah, it'll make him weak.
Yeah.
So anyway, I found this very, very fascinating because it's hard for me to believe that as long as we've been looking at spiders, no one's ever seen him do this. Like, is this new behavior? Is this guy the pioneer of spider food prep? You know, or is it we just never caught it before? You know, or is it just this one particular species that is able to do this? There's a lot of unanswered questions, but I find it to be, it's like some dude literally sat down doing something else, looked over, and opened up an entire new angle of study in nature.
He's lucky that he saw that, because normally when I'm supposed to be paying attention to something important and I just drift off, all I see is I'm just looking at dumb shit, and then I get in trouble.
Yeah,
because I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. He's so lucky. Because otherwise it would have just been like, dude, why weren't you watching the frogs?
Yeah, exactly.
You were supposed to be watching the frogs, dude.
How much frog data did you get? Oh, man.
Zero. Yeah, that would have been a real problem if he hadn't discovered a whole new behavior of animal.
Yeah. This would be like, Anthony, if you discovered that carving Depeche Mode into your desk at school was, a whole new field of science.
Yeah. I discovered a new kind of wood that was in school desks. They were like, oh shit, that's a really weird type of wood. Thank God you were carving the 9 Inch Nails logo into it. Otherwise we wouldn't have noticed. Also, you're not in trouble for the knife now.
Yeah.
This is amazing. And you know how I feel about this, and the concerned citizens know how I feel about this. Anytime we see animals doing things that are more complex, we spent up until recently, we had such a condescending and simplistic view of animals, I think.
Yeah.
Even
still do in a lot of circles.
Yeah, but I just love that we're finding that they're more complex and they do more interesting things. And even their tiny spidey brains are capable of more than we think they were. So that's a very exciting story.
So let me ask you your opinion on this. Do you think this is something that spiders have done for a long time, or do you think this is either emergent behavior or unique behavior in this particular spider?
As much as I would love to believe that this is one special Spidey because it makes for a better story, I think my gut tells me that this is something that spiders have been doing, or perhaps this type of spider in this environment has been doing, and we just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, it feels like it would be a little too lucky for John Gould to just happen to see the one spider that figured this out.
But then they become best friends.
And that spider, makes him famous in so many ways. And teaches him so many things. And then one day that spider just has to leave, you know?
Yeah.
And in the web, you see, goodbye. Goodbye, John.
Some pig. And John's like, hey, that's pretty fucked up. I thought we were friends. Thank you to Synergy for sending in this story to the Discord. If you want to see this Discord, it ain't no hidden secret. You can get access to this Discord.
So cheap. $1 a month. That means between 30 and 31 days, sometimes in the 20s. I don't know. But once a month, you have to pay $1. That is $1. That's like nothing. To get access to the quality of story here. And stories are just the beginning, because there's actually people who submit those stories, and those people write other interesting things in the Discord.
That's right. We've got channels for everything from what books you're reading, what shows you're watching, movies, all kinds of stuff, just a general hangout channel, health and just mental health, and all kinds of great channels. It's a really wonderful place to be. And you have to pay to see it. Go to patreon.com.
You know, all the people there are cool. Sorry, go ahead.
Because they have $1. Yeah. People who have $1 are cool.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/wehaveconcerns. Jeff, you're a music man. You like playing music.
I like playing music. I do. I play a little guitar. Yeah.
Your kid is starting to show some musical aptitude, which is exciting.
Yeah. More of a DJ than, you know.
Yeah. And we will, when he's old enough, we will tell him that DJs don't count.
Right. But for now, you know, got to encourage whatever we can get.
Yeah. Way to queue up a playlist, son, we'll say.
Yeah. Each song, you know.
Oh, did you match that BPM yourself, or did you look it up?
Yeah.
Son. But no, you know, and there is such a connection between the sciences and music, because there's a connection between math and music, which is something we've seen all the time. And because of this, you might know already, or this might be new to you, that scientists are trying to find ways to find music in the natural world. The patterns that occur in science could be decoded or re-encoded into music. This is a story that was left on the Discord by a good old no nickname, Mark Nuffer.
Ooh, love the Nuffer. Love a Nuffer.
And it's an intensely long write-up on Physics World that talks about the different experiments scientists have done to turn the natural world into music. The most recent one being creating music out of a spider's web, Jeff. That's real shit. We didn't plan that.
We're like Synergy over here. Look at us.
We're a bit of synergy ourselves. We don't mean to brag. So because music is made of patterns, and because a lot of things in the natural world are made of recurring patterns, science has tried multiple times to turn patterns into music. One of the first ones was protein sonification.
Sure, everybody remembers their first protein sonification.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm non-practicing, but I did a protein sonification basically to make my family happy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I get that.
And I wanted the big party. So basically, protein sonification was, there are 20 types of amino acids. And scientists took that and turned it into a 20-tone scale. And then any chain of amino acids can be a song, Jeff.
Wow.
That's pretty crazy,
just some
right?
guy in the office who was like, the amino acid song, it's the amino acid song. There are over 20 types and it's always kind of long. So you got to use a song to remember the amino acids. Like that?
Yeah, it was exactly that, actually. Have you read this paper before?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for acting surprised anyway when I brought it up. Now, here's the thing. This sounds like a beautiful, magical way to see the world around us, doesn't it?
Yeah, like it's all music.
Like
that is beautiful.
It is beautiful. Let me play the amino acid scale for you.
I mean, it's not awful.
It's not awful. It's definitely going through its ambient post-electronic phase.
That's true. Though, if you told me that was a new ringtone that they just released on the iOS, I would believe you.
I wouldn't. Know? That's so ugh. Maybe, and it might just be the sound that they decided, like the bell sound that they decided to associate with it. But it's real ugh.
Right. So feels like it's not evidence that there's a musicality in, or at least the method they use to create this musicality isn't particularly beautiful.
Yeah. And so, they're trying to figure out kind of how to make it even more kind of deep and musical. Like maybe that wasn't the best way. So they were studying lysozyme, which is this antimicrobial enzyme that's found in tears and saliva and milk. It's basically if there's
music in your tears,
there's music in your tears, which I believe was a Bobby Darin song.
Yeah. I think my dad loved There's Music in Your Tears.
Oh my God. Yeah. It was on my grandpa's record player like all the time. But listen, so they tried to take the lysosome or the lysozyme and figure it out. Okay, we have these 20 tones that we've created for amino acids, but what if we also add different frequencies for the different scales of length or time or complexity of these amino acids in the lysozyme? And maybe now we're going to make a truly beautiful song. Are you ready for a truly beautiful song that naturally occurs?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Lysozyme, the song. Not great.
Jeff, I'm going to go ahead and say that so far this is not working.
Yeah. Although I think I played that level in Castlevania.
Yeah, I'm going to say it sounds like a really bad, cheap video game.
Yeah.
Like a cheap 8-bit video game, like one of the ones that you rent over the weekend. You're like, woo!
Yeah.
Should not have rented this one based on the title.
Lysozyme seemed like such a cool sci-fi game, but no. Pretty crappy, it turns out.
So it's just, I appreciate what they're trying to do because I do appreciate how people who go into these fields do see the beauty in the naturally occurring world. That's part of why they do it,
Right.
And they want other people to see it and they want to share it in a way that makes people go, wow, the complexity and the depth of this. But here's the thing. Not everything do be a song.
Feels like a bit of a square peg round hole type of situation, trying to make something work that doesn't necessarily work.
A little bit, yeah. And so they definitely they sort of went a little deeper into this. I want to say this was written by this was taken by from Physics World, the January 2022 issue of Physics World, which we all of course have our
on my. Yeah,
I haven't gotten
coffee table.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to it yet, but this was Marcus Buehler and Mario Milazzo, who are scientists, biologists who are working on making these things, and they've been writing up their findings. So the next thing they did was they tried to figure out how to take these naturally occurring things, and if you think about like MIDI data, if you think about I'm pushing a key on a keyboard. And it's up to me to tell the computer how to, the computer recognizes the different keys and how they're being pressed. It's up to me to assign the instrument and assign the tone.
Sure.
Maybe we haven't been assigning the correct thing. So they did a little research into the circle of fifths, right? Which is a big deal in music. I don't particularly understand it because I'm not a musician, but the idea is if you put the 12 basic notes of a scale onto a circle, and you look at one and you go down 5 notes and you play these notes that are 5 away from each other or across each other. It's kind of like a color wheel to tell musicians what notes work together. And one of the examples that they give to explain the circle of fifths is the Goldberg Variations aria by Bach. Bach was one of the famous proponents who made the circle of fifths like a big deal in music. So this is the Goldberg variations, and it's using circle of fifths to use notes that aren't necessarily next to each other, but sound good together. Right? That's beautiful.
Yes.
That's beautiful. So they're like, all right, we've got it. We understand how to transpose these things now. And their latest research is into, Jeff, mapping spider webs to sort of harp tones, right? It's a string instrument.
You just go over to a spider web and you just pluck each individual.
Yeah, you use a tiny bow, or you can use a tiny pick.
Yeah.
The tiniest of picks. Or you can ask the spider. The spider usually keeps one just tucked into the laces of his spats. Just in case it...
4 pairs of spats he wears.
Yeah.
So there's, you got 4 options for picks.
Well, they say, hey, we can think of a spider as an autonomous 3D printer. And it builds its web using signals via vibrations, right? It can tell as it's walking along its web which strands are stronger, which are weaker by the vibrations and the tones. And it knows where it needs to add more, remove more to make a strong structure to live on. That's got to be musical, right?
I'm into this. If you're about to play me web music and it's going to be beautiful, I'm going to be so excited.
Well, they took, and they wanted to go, they were like, and also we need to be looking at more variations, Jeff. So they took not just the length of the strings, but they took a 3D scan and used precise information about every single thread, the thickness, the tension, all of this stuff, as though it was guitar strings or strings on a harp. And they're like, now we are really modeling these naturally occurring things, and we've made a real instrument out of it. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Variations on a spider's web.
That's kind of awesome.
It's kind of cool if you're like making a horror film.
Yeah, it does. I mean, isn't a spider making a horror film all the time? I mean, maybe that's what it is. That the spider's like, yeah, step into my web. Bling, 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 bling. I mean, here it comes. Come on, fly. Come over here.
I mean, I kind of dig that as an idea, but I do, by the time I got to this, which was their final piece of research and everything, I was like, I'm beginning to think this is more about Marcus than anything else. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I absolutely do, in that this feels like striving toward an already known end goal, which is the opposite of science, right? We're trying to contrive this data into something that sounds palatable to the ear. And so all of the machinations that he's going through feel like it's just to make it sound better. Like, okay, well, that sounded like crap. Let's do something different, trying to get it to a place that sounds good.
Well, but not just that. I feel like we know everything about Marcus's musical taste now. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's like, no, this one sounds even better. This one's even crazier good. And it's like, oh no, like this is the dude who will send you a link to like an ambient music project he's been working on for like a year, you know? And he's like, he's got like rack mount synths and stuff. And he's just like making creepy, weird atonal music. And you're just like, cool, Marcus.
Yeah.
I love that for you.
He's like, he scored his own David Cronenberg film festival, you know, like in his living room. And he's like, he wants you to hear his version of what it's, he just plays the movies with the sound off, but he's on the synth, the 3 synths that he has in a U shape set up in his living room.
Oh my God. You know? Yeah. And it's all just atonal composition, because there's got to be a way to take this data and make it not sound like a murder.
But
Do you know what I mean? Like,
if you think about it, I mean, what is a spider web but the scene of a murder? I mean,
okay, but then explain the amino acids, the building blocks of life, sounding like somebody who heard that you can make music with Game Boys.
Yeah.
And then trying for the first time.
I really feel like this is the definition of trying to force something. You know, it's really trying to make this happen. And I feel like you could plug in any data set, right? You could like assign a number to every letter in the Bible and just feed that into a you know, and then what that number corresponds to a tone, and it would sound like something, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the data set is. You plug it in and it'll be like, it'll sound like something. But does that mean that there is a musicality inherent in the data set? I don't know.
Right.
I don't think so.
I feel like I've seen things like this before where it's like we took traffic patterns, or we took lights, or we took temperature and climate data, and like you can assign a numerical, like I understand the concept of taking anything that's numeric data and then taking the differentiation between that data and assigning it musical notes or instruments. Like I understand that.
Yeah.
But like, we're definitely not writing pop hits here.
Right. And I think it's all about our human desire to have pattern recognition, right? There is a pattern in this web, this spider's web. So how do I recognize that pattern? Well, is it music? Is it a musical pattern? Oh, it sounds like something. I think it's our human desire to assign something that we can wrap our heads around for any data set. You want to find what signal in the noise, right?
Yeah, and I feel like there's a way to do this where they could hand off this data to somebody who is a mathematician, or I think there's one of them is a mathematician, one of them is a biologist, but you can also hand it off to somebody who's just a straight up like musician and be like, okay, here's the pattern. And the musician could look at the pattern and be like, okay, based on this pattern, we should maybe assign it this particular scale and this particular instrument, and, you know, make this number into this note. Like there's a way, because it's just data. It's like you're saying.
Yeah.
You have a data set. If your goal is to turn it into music, because there's nothing you're looking for here that's natural. You're not looking for a natural music. You're automatically, by assigning it some sort of noise or tone or frequency, you are automatically putting your own idea onto a data set. So if you're putting your own idea onto a data set, if I might make a suggestion, just put a pleasant put a pleasant tone onto it.
You know what you should have done when you're setting up the story is you should have been like, okay, and they finally put the web data in, and you should have just played like Girl from Ipanema.
I thought about it. I thought about playing like some crazy ass like Wagner, like the planets or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, like this is what they found.
This is what they found, and it's it turns out it's all Kesha. It turns out it's just Kesha all the way down.
It's like the entire Master of Puppets album. Just a spider web.
Spiders is angry. They play an angry song. But I like this as, you know, they didn't present this as some sort of scientific discovery, right? This was not a paper that was written up. This was in an issue of a magazine. It's
an experiment.
Yeah, they were just like, this is a fun thing that we want to do. And I love this. And I would love to see them release this data, turn over this data and this methodology and put it out in the public and be like, hey, what can you do with this? Like, let's turn this into a public music project. And it's like, what can you do with this data? 4 producers flip the same amino acid. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. But I also feel like I mean, I think music is a perfect delivery device for this kind of experimentation. But I also feel like there's nothing to stop you from, assigning each of these amino acids to a different letter and seeing if it creates any kind of words there's a whole range of things you could do to just layer on some sort of pattern on top of what is already a pattern. I think it feels kind of arbitrary to me.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And that's why my sticking point is, my dudes, if it's arbitrary and you've been working on it for 4 years, why don't you arbitrarily make it good to listen to so more people are interested in it?
Yeah.
This is where you got to leave the researcher methodology and mindset behind and get into that, quite honestly, that SoundCloud DJ mindset. How are you going to write that hook? How are you going to write that drop that brings everybody to your mix?
Baby. That's what we should be like. I have my science here and I'm presenting it, and I should just respond with, I'm not hearing a hit.
This ain't it.
Hearing a hit.
This ain't it, Chief.
I think it's cool. I think it's cool to, attempt something like this. But I agree with you that this is not particularly evocative for me.
No.
And I was hoping for something a little more successful.
I know. When I saw this, I was like, oh snap, here we go. I am ready for the music of the natural world. And I am ready, even if it wasn't mind-blowing, even if it was like just a pleasant little tune, I was like, listen, you're talking to a guy who will lay in bed and listen to recordings of number stations with keyboard pads behind it. I'm a sucker. I listen to lo-fi mixes, which is basically, it's just smooth jazz for millennials. I do not have a discerning musical palette. What I can tell you is this ain't it.
I feel like, though, if you do this enough, you're eventually going to get, Dark Side of the Moon and Wizard of Oz, right? You're eventually going to get something that just happens to be something, right?
I mean, maybe that's the thing, right? Because if you take these lengths, they talk about how they take these lengths of proteins and stuff like that and turn the lengths into specific frequencies, right? Like an A is what? An A is like 440 hertz or something like that when you're tuning an instrument, something.
Yeah.
So they're trying to turn it into what is the most analogous one-to-one note frequency. And I think there's something pure in the search for the most musical thing on earth. That's kind of interesting to me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we tried it with this particular spider and this particular spider's web. This ain't it. What if we try it with 50 different 3D scans? What if you
just found a spider who's shitty at making music webs?
Yeah.
You found a bad, there's like the Mozart of spiders, and there's the me of spiders.
Not every spider is dehydrating its food. You know what I mean? We know that.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a special Spidey, maybe. So maybe when you're looking
those musical adept spiders.
That's what you're looking for. And listen, there's a certain amount of natural talent, and everybody will tell you that, but it's sure. Also learned. And so you want a spider that's put in the work.
Yeah, exactly.
I think about one of the first big viral things I ever saw on the internet. I think it was it was one of the first big science stories that ever got passed around by everybody. And it was the spiders who were put on caffeine, LSD, and sugar and how it changed their webs.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe that's what you're looking for. Maybe you're looking for a spider that's just hopped up on caffeine, and it's the right kind of spider on the right kind of stimulant at the right time.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be a spider that's writing, freaking EDM. A spider that's writing music for your kid.
Exactly. Get that spider in my house. There is a part of me that believes that there's a kernel of truth here. Because, you look at something like the golden ratio, and how often that appears in nature and, in a snail shell and in flowers.
Yeah.
And how
particularly when we help it out compositionally, but yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is a little bit like what we talked about a long time ago about, pictures from space and how they're colorized and we just accept it as being pictures of space.
Yeah. Listen, baby, sometimes clouds looks like dogs.
Exactly.
Golden ratio.
But I do believe that there is a math to the world that is beautiful, right? And I do believe that beautiful math has a musicality, right? We know that music and math, you can sort of, they're, as you said, are related. So I think there's a kernel of truth here. I just wish this was more it.
Yeah, and I do want to say we're kind of dunking on this. I don't mean to be dunking on it because I appreciate the purity of their search. I appreciate
I agree.
But I do feel like if you're going to release the big article to the public, maybe give me the raw data and then maybe be like, and this is what happens when we put it through this Waves plugin that I fucking pirated. This is what happens when we auto-tune DNA,
Yeah.
Have a little fun with it.
I wanted this article to be like, I did the spider web. I applied a few software things, and it's Hey Jude. A spider was playing Hey Jude the whole fucking time.
And just the na-na-na part, which is the part that we like. Get to the na-na-nas, we all say. This song is 7 minutes long. Where are the na-na-nas? Spiders know. Yeah. They live very short, brief, terrible lives. They get right to the na-na-nas.
Get right to the na-na-nas. You can't waste your time.
No. So there it is. I wish these researchers the best, and I'm actually going to follow them, and I want to follow more of their research and see if they find things along the way.
Yeah,
because I think that's very exciting.
Hashtag find the na-na-nas.
Find the na-na-nas. Thank you to No Nickname Nuffer for sending this in. Remember, if you send enough stories and we notice, maybe I'll give you also a very bad nickname. It's not a promise. It's more of a threat. And if you want to send in those stories, of course, the first place we look is the Discord, patreon.com/wehaveconcerns to get access to that. But we also do look on the subreddit, which is wehaveconcerns.reddit.com, and in our email, which is wehaveconcernshow@gmail.com. I'm slurring because I'm drunk. See you next week.